But at some point, particularly when you're talking about hard numbers, the prices of commodities, for example, in the middle of a war that is affecting those prices, it is worth paying attention to the president's own estimates of the costs of this voluntary war that he started at the demand of Israel. So here's the president, I think yesterday, explaining his view on oil prices.
I also thought oil would go up to 200, 250, maybe 300. And I know it would be short term, but I thought it would go. I looked today, it's like at 102. And that's a very small price to pay for getting rid of a nuclear weapon from people that are really mentally deranged.
It's 100. I thought it was going to go to 200 or 300. Really? What would $200 a barrel oil mean? Well, we've never had it. We've never had and these are adjusted numbers. We've never had $200 a barrel Brent crude, period, in world history. But what would happen if we did? Well, I don't know, $10 a gallon for unleaded at the pump? More for diesel? Much more for jet fuel? What would that mean? Well, it would mean inflation, possibly hyperinflation. What would $300 a barrel oil, which the president said he imagined we could have, what would that mean? Well, it's not even worth guessing because no one's even modeled it out. No one's even taken the time to write out the formula or guess as to what effect $300 a barrel oil would have on human civilization.
I mean, if you think $200 a barrel is going to be $10 a gallon, well, 15, 20 bucks a gallon for 1 gallon of gas. It's not only that, everything goes up. Food prices go up. Cost of travel goes up. I mean, even the guy that comes and mows your lawn, he'll have to jack up the prices. Everything goes up. I mean, it would be insane to even. And then here's the thing too. Once it gets that high, it's hard to bring it back down to a decent number.
But you can be absolutely certain it would be the end of a lot of things that we take for granted. Certainly air travel, jobs. It would be a true disaster on the level of, I don't know, a national tsunami or hurricane. It would affect every person in the United States making less than $1 million a year. It would crush people. Already at $100 in the U.S., $100 oil, you just heard the president say it's 97, something like that. People around the world are worrying about famine because, of course, oil is not just used to produce gasoline and jet fuel and asphalt and kerosene and all the familiar products. It's also used to produce fertilizer, all kinds of petrochemicals used in manufacturing, but fertilizer. And without it, crop yields go down and people starve in the most populated continent in the world, which would be sub-Saharan Africa. So already you are seeing a massive human cost, not well reported in American media, to a relatively small spike in global oil prices. And here you have the president saying, I thought it could be $300. That's like saying, well, I thought they might drop a neutron bomb on Chicago, but, I just wanted to risk it. No president should ever be willing to talk that casually about the economic destruction of his nation. The justification for it. It's worth it, said the president, because Iran had nuclear weapons, and you can't let crazy people have nuclear weapons. So it's almost not worth it. Rebutting that with the facts, which are as follows: Iran did not have a nuclear weapon. It did not have ICBMs to deliver that weapon here or anywhere near here. It did not have an active nuclear weapons program, and the American intelligence community, all 18 separate agencies, determined that conclusively after studying it for years, and with the motivation to find said nuclear program, they couldn't. So no, Iran did not have a nuclear weapon. It was nowhere near getting a nuclear weapon, despite the lying you have often heard. That was not even an imminent threat. It was not close to an imminent threat, despite the fact the Israelis had told us and the U.S. Congress for over 20 years that it was an imminent threat. That was a lie. But you have to ask yourself, even if it was true, Would that justify destroying the American economy? Would it justify, I don't know, driving 200,000 Britons into poverty in 2 months? And that's just the opening salvo. Would it justify a famine in Africa? No one wants to say it. There are a lot of countries with nuclear weapons. You don't want any of them to have nuclear weapons because any normal person thinks nuclear weapons are bad because they are, by definition, weapons of mass destruction that kill innocents. So they are bad as a category. But there are a lot of countries that have them, including countries with, well, leaderships that are filled with religious extremists like Israel and Pakistan, and in a way, North Korea. And the world has been able to continue for now almost 30 years with a nuclear armed Pakistan. It's not ideal. Maybe we should have done something during the Clinton administration to stop it. But we haven't had to destroy the American economy in order to do something about it since then. Of course not. And in fact, the deeper truth is that there is a kind of stability, as bad as nuclear weapons are, when rival nations possess them. India and Pakistan, which are countries with a long, almost 80-year history of hating each other and many wars in the interim, have managed to fight fairly bitter conflicts since 1947 without using nuclear weapons against each other. How is that possible? Well, the mutually assured destruction principle, which, as ugly as it sounds, is real. It's absolutely real. What you don't want is a nation that feels no constraints whatsoever, that feels it can do whatever it wants. It feels it can roll into its neighbor's sovereign territory and expel the population and kill people. This is exactly, we thought, the lesson of World War II. That's bad. But that's kind of what you get when you have a country that feels it has unconstrained power. It can do whatever it wants. What does it tend to do? Well, whatever it wants. And so you could at least make the case academically, even if you disagreed with the whole idea of nuclear weapons and thought they were probably inherently evil, even if you wondered where they came from in the first place, even if you had dark suspicions about the genesis of nuclear weapons, and some of us do, you could still make the case on a pragmatic basis that, look at the effects. Look at the effects. They are less bad than this. So that's the explanation from the president.
Yeah, but if something is rigged and the person that tells you it's rigged and knows the loopholes, you don't think he's going to continue rigging it for himself? Like, those are common sense things. But anyways, when it comes to like the price of gas being at, $10 a gallon, $15 a gallon, airports would literally be empty. There'd be nobody there. This is why we need young people, a younger president. When you got somebody on the back nine of their life, they don't give a shit on what they're going to do. Their life is already over. There should be a maximum age that you can work as and be a president. And that number should be like 63 years old. If you're older than 63 years old, you cannot fucking run to be president. You can't be 78 years old. You only have, come on, 10 years to live maybe? That's if you're in excellent shape. Trump is on the, he's rich, so he can extend himself. But I don't think you should have presidents that are that old because they just don't give a shit, And the fact that he even cares about trying to enrich himself even more is insane to me. It's like, dude, you got enough money. You're going to die before you spend any of that money. So what's the point of it? And you just feel like you could do, and here's another thing. When you're that old, you're very easy to trick. So if you notice that when you get those calls from India and they're trying to scam you, it's all old people. It's all old people getting scammed. 100%. It's not young people getting scammed. They're not running down to fucking Walgreens to cash in fucking gift cards. It's old people doing that. So old people are very easy to con. And, yeah, I think there should be a maximum age that you can be before you can run for president, And I'd rather have, honestly, I don't know what the minimum age is, but 30 years old, that's a good age where you could be president. You're slick, your mind is working smooth. I think 30 years old is a good minimum starting point. Around 60 years old, That's the max. You can't go any further than that because you just don't give a shit anymore. Anyways, like, follow, subscribe.